Okay, I think we're rolling. Hello and welcome to the third of our three Facebook Live sessions this week. My name's Christopher, I'm the founder and director of Musical U, and I'm delighted to have you with us here today, whether you're joining live or you're watching the replay. We're here to talk about ease and joy, and this is the third in three sessions, and it's best if you've watched the first two. You may not 100% follow what I'm saying if you haven't, but I'm going to do a quick recap, and that will hopefully get us all on the same page if you just want to watch live now. So before I dive in, a couple of thank yous and an apology, a bit like yesterday, thank yous and apologies. And I'm going to do my very best today to keep it shorter than the first session. I think I did better at that yesterday. I think I got the level of caffeine about right somewhere midway through. I'm working on that again today because this seems to be the key to a good Facebook Live. And I'm not joking when I tell you that the coffee machine broke today and it was looking like I'd have to cancel this whole thing because there was no coffee, but thankfully we got it working. So a couple of thank yous and then we'll get into the meat of it. A thank you first to everyone who's been watching. You've been coming along live, you've been commenting and questioning and replying by email. It's been fantastic, thank you so much. And it's nuts, we've had a ton tune in live, but even more watching the replays. I think we've had over 2,000 views over Facebook and YouTube for the first two training sessions over the last couple of days, which is fantastic, and some really terrific responses. Thank you for sharing when this stuff has been hitting home with you. And a particular shout out to Mary W. I won't say her last name for privacy, but Mary posted on the last session to say that after watching, it was like a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders, and she shared that she was about to start a practice session with a whole new perspective using these new questions about ease and joy, and that just warmed my heart. And we've had a bunch of comments like that to say this is really hitting home, this is giving you a fresh way of looking at things. And that's a bit of a relief to me, to be honest, because it's a bit scary for me. It's very easy for me to jump on and like teach something about interval recognition or, you know, teach how to play chords by ear and handle inversions. Like all of the nitty-gritty is one thing, but getting into these slightly fuzzier topics around feelings and psychology and perspective and mindset, it's really much harder to know that I'm hitting home or that I'm delivering value. So thank you so much for everyone who's been sharing how this is landing with you and that it's helping. I want to give a shout out to Zach from the Musical U team, who shared a great comment during session 2. I was saying something about how a lot of us have this inherited notion from society that if we're enjoying ourselves, it means we're not working hard or we're not doing it right, or, you know, we need to suffer in order to achieve. And Zach posted to say he's always had the opposite mindset. He's always felt like if he's not having fun in music, he's doing it wrong. And I just wanted to call out that because it's exactly what we're talking about, and he had that mindset, and that I have no doubt is exactly why he's enjoying such success in his music learning. And he was, you know, such a perfect fit for the Foundations course that, you know, he stood out and we ended up hiring him to join the team because he was just like he got it like that. And it's exactly that. It's music should be fun, and that's not the antithesis of success and achievement. So fantastic. Thanks, Zach, for sharing that. One more thank you, which is just to Adam from the Musical U team. We're trying something different this week. As I mentioned a couple of times, I'm very used to doing quick Facebook Lives, and I'm fairly used to doing like live Q&A calls with members and that kind of thing, but doing this kind of format, trying to teach in this way, trying to teach something fuzzy, trying to involve you guys as much as possible and just kind of be here to help you in any way I can. It's a very different kind of a thing, and there's been a lot of tech stuff to figure out, a lot of kind of content stuff to figure out, and so just a big shout out to Adam, who has been in the trenches alongside me figuring some of that stuff out this week. Thank you, Adam. And yeah, thanks to the team who are right here with us live today. That's great. I did see one angry face float across my screen. Facebook does this thing where you get the likes and the loves and reactions, and someone was angry a minute ago. Tell me why you're angry, please, in the comments. I don't think I've done anything that offensive so far. Maybe it's because my coffee machine was nearly breaking. You were annoyed on my behalf. Or maybe you just hate that I take a few minutes to get into the meat of things. Either way, let me know in the comments. And on that front, please don't be shy in the comments. Say hi, introduce yourself, let me know who's here. I can see the numbers of who's tuned in live, but not who you are. So until you say something, you're anonymous. I'd love to hear who you are, what you do, why you're here, how it's landing with you, any questions you have. So those were the thank yous. A quick apology. If you came at the very beginning of yesterday's session or you watched the start of the replay, you will have heard me serenading Stuart from the Musical U team with Molly Malone. and asking you guys to identify the song and also figure out the solfa. And I screwed up the solfa, and I think basically it's what did I sing? I sang so do 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 mi do re 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 fa, and then I think I sang like mi fa mi re so, and I'm sure there were some of you who immediately were like, what? And my Kodai teacher would say, that's a funny vegetable. I got it wrong. I got the wrong names for those notes, and if you watch the replay, you'll see I paused because I realized I made a mistake, and I just kind of ran with it. And I wanted to apologize for a couple of reasons. One is just to clarify that should have been re mi re do so re mi rather than mi fa. And I put that correction in the comments, so if anyone was confused, hopefully you saw that it was just a screw up. But I wanted to make a fuss about it for a moment because there's a couple of things worth saying here. The first is, this is why I don't teach the foundations course. Clearly my solfa is not perfect, and you know, they say never do maths on live TV, and I think we can add never try and figure out solfa on the fly on live Facebook, because it's a bit tricky. But a couple of things. One is handling mistakes. I'm happy with myself in retrospect that I did just continue on and I didn't stop and chit-chat for minutes about the mistake, because that wasn't what you were there for. That was just a kind of by-the-way fun little filler exercise. And we've got a couple of episodes coming up on Musicality now in the next couple of weeks, all about making mistakes and handling them with grace. And that's one of the big points, is just keep going, and a few little subtleties around that about how to keep going and why it matters and how to get your head right about that. So hopefully I feel like I walked my talk there in terms of handling mistakes with a bit of grace. But the second thing I want to pick up on is just to say, in case you're new to Musical You and you've never encountered our stuff before, to be very clear, I am not a guru. Like, I am not... There's a lot of companies where they have a figurehead and it's like, that's the guy, I want to be just like that guy, and if I do exactly what he says, I can be just like him. We are not that kind of company. Like, I'm out here as the spokesperson, as it were, but I'm a few steps ahead. Like, hopefully I'm more polished on a lot of these skills than most of our members, but I am not the be-all, end-all. I'm not here to tell you I'm perfect, and from the very beginning, I've called in more expert music educators than myself to develop our training material with me. So, for example, like Andrew Bishko on the Musical You team has vastly more experience than me, and the Foundations course that I've mentioned a few times because we're opening up tomorrow is taught by Anne Molesky, like a world-leading Kodai expert, who I think would probably want me to say, like, her solfa is gonna... She would want me to say she's not perfect either, I think. But we all make mistakes, and I did just want to make that point, though. Like, the reason I can say Foundations is amazing, or with the podcast, too, I can say Musicality Now is such an amazing show. And it's not because I'm amazing by any stretch, it's because in that case, like, Adam finds these incredible guests to come on our show and share their wisdom. And with Foundations, we got Anne to come in and teach this course and get the solfa right. So if you hear me effusing about the podcast or the Foundations course, it's not to blow my own horn, and I'm not here to say you can be just like me. It's because we have some of the very best people providing the training. So yeah, just to say again, very warm welcome if you're joining us live. Hello to Sybil, a very familiar name there. Thank you for coming live. It's been great communicating with you by email over the last couple of years, and fantastic to have you here with us. Hello also to Erica, a Musical You student. Terrific. And you say that your music and spiritual journey are tied together. Wonderful. I think, you know, I don't want to overstate it, but I think that's true for most of us, and the lucky ones among us recognize it and realize there is this whole emotional, spiritual, psychological aspect to our music learning, and I think the more we can recognize that, the better. We'll be talking a bit about that today. And hi Chrissy too, great to see you here. Can't wait to sign up for Foundations. That's lovely to hear. Fantastic, Chrissy. Well, I'll be sharing something later on that you won't want to miss in that case. And I know that we do have a lot of people joining us live who've been on that wait list for Foundations and are eager to dive in tomorrow. What I'm going to share today is really worth hearing to get you in the right mindset for that. So please don't be shy, say hi, ask questions. I'm here to serve you. I'm very conscious that we have people who are new to us, we have members of Musical You, we have Foundations graduates, and I'm basically here to do whatever I can to help you get more ease and joy this week. So again, I've come along with talking points and what I have in mind to share, and there's one big thing I want to kind of announce at the end that I don't think anyone outside one or two on the team even know about. But totally open to wherever you want to take this, so please post in the chat, let me know what's landing, let me know what you want more of or less of, and if I make any more solfa mistakes, you can yell at me and let me know. So in the first couple of sessions, I put a disclaimer in and I said, I'm going to be mentioning foundations, but I'm not here to sell you on it. I'm not here to pitch you on it. And that's mostly because we're expecting it to sell out. The pressure's off me. It's wonderful. I could just kind of be here and enjoy talking about ease and joy. But the reason I am here today is a bit to sell you, believe it or not. And I'm not here to sell you on Musical You membership. I'm not here to sell you on foundations, not least because some of you already bought them, but on yourself. I want to sell you on yourself and on a new musical future that's possible, one that's filled with ease and joy and better results than ever before. All the stuff we've been talking about, I see this session as the one where I try and just kind of carry it over the line and get you committed to this. And I know that whatever stage you're at, if you've come along today, it's because to some extent you want more ease and joy. You might be totally new to everything we're talking about and this kind of musicality and holistic musicianship and letting the inner musician out. This might be all new to you this week. Or you might have been a member for Musical You for 3 or 4 years, as some of the people in the audience I know today have been. Or you might be someone who bought Foundations in January when we last launched and you've been enjoying it, but it's just like you don't feel like you've cracked that ease and joy, maybe. Or maybe you took Foundations, loved it, and you're about to get into part 2 and you just kind of want to make sure you're doing it in the right way. So whatever stage you're at, I know that there's part of you that's hesitating and there's part of you that feels like it's not quite as easy or as joyful as it should be. And so that's what I wanted to focus on today is what could I do to really bring this home for all of you? And when I was planning this out in the last week or so, I think I told the story on the first session, like this whole idea of ease and joy came out of hearing from Foundations graduates and hearing that for most of them, the impact of that course boiled down to unlocking this ease and joy in their music learning. And I was like, that is something we should talk more about. And I realized like if I was going to do 3 live sessions and we were going to be talking about this, there were 3 things I figured I needed to do. So the first was to explain what are we talking about when I say ease, when I say joy. We're not just using them very loosely. There were some specific meanings of those words that I shared in the first session. And I wanted to cover kind of the what, why, and how of ease and joy in music learning. And particularly to show you, or maybe just remind you for some of you, that the holistic approach, like is used in Kodai and in the Foundations course, it's the most effective, it's the deepest, it's just the most kind of dead-on way of nailing that and getting that ease and joy. And that's kind of at the core. We also talked about a different level of it, and I did want to give a shout out to David W. He's one of our members at Musical U, one of our Foundations grads, and he's one of our case studies, actually. If you check out the Foundations page at musicalmindcourse.com, you'll see his story. And thank you again to David for sharing that with us. David sent me an email yesterday, having watched the part 2 session, to share a way that he introduces more ease and joy to his life. And I wanted to share it with you because I love the analogy or the metaphor, which is, he said, when he's working on piano and he feels like it's not very easy or joyful, like when he feels like it's starting to drag, he gives himself a lollipop. That's how he explained it. He said he has these little things, little exercises or ideas that he can do on piano that he knows are fun and easy and will just kind of connect him to that feeling of, oh, I love music, I'm enjoying this. And he calls them lollipops, like he just gives himself a lollipop. And I love that. I think that's the perfect metaphor that, there's 2 levels to it, right? Like there's the kind of practical nitty-gritty, what could we do, like practicing with a drum loop instead of a metronome, or like bringing some improvisation into the exercise. And I shared that cheat sheet in the first session to give you some kind of practical nitty-gritty, what could I do to have more ease and joy? And that's where David's looking with that lollipop idea is there a thing I could just kind of sprinkle in here that would help? That's awesome, and it connects you to that feeling. But the other level, of course, is what I mentioned before, that holistic inner musician, and letting that inner musician out is kind of not a panacea, but it's kind of the main solution you should be thinking about, because when you operate from that place and you bring yourself back to that perspective, you kind of you'll naturally find whatever practical nitty-gritty hands-on things are going to make it happen. So anyway, I just wanted to share the lollipop, and I hope some of you, if you have your own lollipops, please post them in the chat, the little things you do during your music practice, just because you want to. Then in session 2, we talked about the mental barrier you might have that it might actually not be about acquiring ease and joy from elsewhere and the kind of practical tips on how to do that. Actually, a lot of the thing that's been causing you struggle and disappointment and frustration might be that you're not allowing yourself to have more ease and joy. And we kind of unpacked that a little bit, and I talked about some of the cultural ways of putting this, like no pain, no gain, or the Protestant work ethic, where if you're not suffering, you're not working hard enough. And from the responses to that session, and thank you to everyone who did comment or shoot me an email or get in touch in some way, it seems like that stuff really hit home with a lot of you. You were finding examples of phrases or sentences you hear in your head that actually keeps you from exploring the ease and joy. And a lot of them, when you examine them, they turn out to be false beliefs about hard work. They're misconceptions about what's going to get you the results. So that was session 2, and today we're going to be moving from the internal barriers to more of an external perspective, because I realized the third thing I really need to do is try and get you moving. Like I said, to kind of carry that ball over the line for you or with you so that you actually do something about this. And whether that means going back to the foundations course you've started, or it means a new roadmap in Musical You, or it means getting into this whole musicality thing for the first time, I want to make sure that we send you away today feeling like, yes, I'm going to do this. So if you've been with us for the first 2 sessions, there's probably 2 things going on in your head, and I'm guessing a little bit, but actually I'll explain why I'm only sort of guessing. There's probably 2 things going on. One is excitement about the idea of experiencing this stuff for yourself, of actually feeling like you have the inner musician, of enjoying music practice, of having it feel easy and just flow, and getting amazing results. And there's probably also some doubt about whether this is possible for you personally. You might be kind of on board intellectually with these ideas I've been sharing, but there's probably a part of you, and if you're anything like me, it's that part that's never satisfied with how good you are. It's the little bit of you that's very low self-esteem and always super critical, that's saying, yeah, it's not for me though, like I don't think I could really do that. And so I thought about making this third session like a lot of that cheat sheet type stuff, like some hands-on practical bits and pieces that I could hand you to go off and do. And I know that's what we all tend to think we need, and it was tempting to me to do that because, like I said, teaching that kind of stuff is super easy, and I could just that's a given. But the thing is, you've had tons of that in the past, right? Like we've got loads of it in the public Musical You website. You can find it all over YouTube. Another exercise or another one little idea isn't going to make the difference. And what we actually need isn't nearly as sexy, and it's not at all as kind of instant gratification as that, but it matters so much more. And I said before, like, I'm not entirely guessing here, and that's because I actually asked some people, not where they were at after session 2, but putting themselves in the shoes I think probably a lot of you are in right now. What advice would they have? I'll explain. So, as I was planning out the content for this week, I was like, I can come up with what to share, and I have my own ideas about what would be useful for people, but I didn't yet know if anyone would be posting in the comments. And again, please do, if you're joining us late, don't be shy, post in the comments, say who you are, ask questions, let me know if anything needs clarification. I didn't know how much of that interaction we'd have, and so I needed to come up with something, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't just my opinion. And so I put myself in the shoes of someone who's just encountered this idea of ease and joy. They're kind of on board with the idea that they could have an inner musician, and maybe some kind of musicality training, some kind of holistic thing, maybe this Kodai thing might unlock something new for them. Or indeed in the shoes of someone who's been exploring that a bit, but has kind of run out of steam and starting to hesitate and have those inner doubts again and not sure if it's ever going to really feel like ease and joy and fun. So putting myself in their shoes, I was like, what's going to be going through their mind? And I decided to just ask some people. So I sent an email, and I sent it out to people who've taken the Foundations course and also bought the Part 2 course we're starting on Monday. And so these are people who enjoyed Part 1 and got results, so much so that they wanted to buy a whole other course from us and continue that journey. I figured that was the perfect example of someone who had got this transformation. And I asked them, like, if you could travel back in time to that moment where you were trying to decide if this was for you or not, what would you tell yourself? And thank you, by the way, to everyone who replied. I know that some of the people who I sent this email to are here right now listening to me talk about it. So thank you if you did reply and you're one of the people I'm about to mention. But I sent it because I wanted to hear, like, what could I usefully say to you right now that would get that ball over the line and get you into action and get you moving towards this transformation of ease and joy. And there were some great responses, and I was expecting it to be specific things. I was expecting it to be, I need more explanation about how relative pitch works, or I need more understanding of whether this is just a guitar thing, or, you know, I thought it would be like nitty-gritty, but actually it wasn't. A lot of it boiled down to belief, and belief in themselves for the most part. It was, I just needed to believe it would work for me. So there was no doubt about whether they wanted the thing, they wanted the transformation, and there wasn't, by the sounds of it, there wasn't a lot of doubt about what we were offering them in the Foundations course. It was really, would this be possible for me, and would I actually get the results? So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I want to do two things to try and address that. If that's where you're at, if you're doubting that the results will be possible for you, whether you're right at the beginning, whether you've been doing this a bit, whether you're a Foundations graduate, one of the people that replied to me, but you know that you just kind of need a bit more affirmation that this next transformation is awaiting you. I wanted to do two things. One is to show you what's possible and get you inspired and excited and really paint a vivid picture of what transformation could be for you. And the second is to show you how to take all the risk away, because that's what makes us hesitate, right? That fear that you're making the wrong choice. That's what was making these people hold back from taking the leap and going for it. And they all said, like, it all boiled down to, I wish I could just go back and encourage myself. And it was because they had been held back by this doubt, skepticism, low confidence that it would be possible for them. So I'm going to do those two things. The first is to inspire you, hopefully, with some examples of what this looks like, because I know it's one thing to say it in the abstract and to talk about playing by ear or talk about becoming more musical. It's quite another if you encounter someone and you talk to them, or you see them on stage, or you read about someone who's actually had this kind of transformation in their musical life. And part of what told me this was the right way to approach this session was that we love this in the Musical U team. Like, there's nothing we like more than when we have some member comment or case study or email come in sharing a transformation that someone's had in musicality. And I want to try and give you now that same experience we get when we see those. We're like, yeah, it's working. Because it does, it gives you that fresh inspiration. And I said, it's not as sexy as teaching you some practical hands-on stuff, but it's so much more important, because when you're inspired, you can do anything. And I just want to see if we can get rid of any of that self-doubt, any of that hesitation, and send you away today feeling like, yes, I am on it. This transformation is just waiting for me. So a hello to Timothy, who's saying hi in the chat. And I do just want to say a hello and thank you to anyone I'm about to mention, because some of the examples I'm going to share now are probably here live or watching the replay. And I think that's worth mentioning is, you may know some of these people. If you're a member of Musical U, they've been training alongside you. You may be one of these people watching this whose story I'm about to share. Don't tune out. Like, I think we would all do a lot better if we allowed ourselves to inspire ourselves a bit more. And so as I give some of these examples, please just immediately try and connect it to you. Make it all about you. Make it about your musical life. And could you picture that kind of experience, that kind of transformation in the context of you and your musical life? And if it is your own story, what would it be like to have that kind of transformation again? So I didn't want to just sit down and read out quotes word by word or kind of walk you through screenshots of what these people said. If you want like the full case studies and some videos of people talking about the transformations they've had, please go to musicalmindcourse.com, and maybe Adam, if you're here, you can pop a link in the comments and check out the case studies. We've got some great case studies. We've got more going to be added to that page tomorrow. But I'm just going to very informally try and share the experience these people had, a little bit in my own words, a little bit in theirs, just to paint a picture for you, just to give you lots of little vivid nuggets of what this transformation could be like for you, to inspire you that it's possible. So the first one is from Manuel G, who's a chemical engineer, plays tenor sax. And he said, to be honest, this is the first time I understand the famous Q&A in improvisation, call and response. And he said, the explanation was so simple, I finally understand the concept. Have there been concepts like that for you in music where you know there's something that needs to click in your brain, but the way it's been explained, it's just not landing with you? Improvisation is often like that for people, and so I love that example from Manuel G on his tenor sax, wanted to improvise, but it had always been hard to understand. Now he got it. He got the call and response. He understood that structure. He was hearing that structure. He was able to play that structure. Super cool. Max O, it's songwriter, British guy, guitarist, young English guy, I think, was on the Foundations course, and he had this big transformation around sheet music. So he said he had been seeing it as unnecessary and tedious, and by the end of the course he saw it as intuitive and useful. And that's a really powerful one, right? Because I know a lot of us have funny relationships with sheet music and traditional notation. It's kind of a blessing and a curse in that it lets you pick up new music and just play it, but it can feel so restrictive. So I love that Max, as like a creative guy, a songwriter, found that his relationship with sheet music and notation was transformed. Gene R, a long-standing Musical You member who is from Australia, I think, had this big transformation and breakthrough around rhythm. She found that she had thought she wasn't good at complex rhythms, but she was fine on simple ones. And she said she kind of had this mindset shift of realizing the way she'd approached even the simplest rhythms was wrong. And actually, if she came at it from this new way, her whole experience of rhythm was different. Claire B, this was a great one. Claire in France wanted to call out the hand signs. And so a little bit nitty gritty, but if you're not familiar with Sulfur and the Kodai approach, there's the thing called hand signs, which is basically showing physically, visually, the pitch of notes and in relative to the scale. And I'm going to try and keep my hand on camera here to do this. I didn't really rehearse doing hand signs live on Facebook, but we'll see. So anyway, the idea is if you're singing, say, a pentatonic scale or a melody, instead of just singing do, re, mi, so, la, so, mi, re, do, you do the hand signs too. So as you move up in pitch, your hand moves up. And as you hit certain degrees of the scale, your hand shape changes. So it's like do, re, mi, so, la, so, mi, re, do. And this may seem totally weird and arcane, and I think that was the perspective Claire was coming from, but she was shocked to find that when she used these hand signs, she was able to kind of check her transcription and check figuring out notes without needing to run to her keyboard to check the pitches. And that was super cool. And funnily, actually, now that I think of it, that's what happened to me in yesterday's session when I paused during Molly Malone. It's because in my brain I was seeing the hand signs and I was like, wait, I'm singing different words than I'm hand signing. Something has gone off track. So I love that from Claire as a very specific, like this was a tool as part of this holistic approach, and the kinesthetic and visual with hand signs too gave her that perspective that just made transcription so much easier. That was cool. David, that I referenced earlier, who had the lollipops, his story is so inspiring. I loved this because he was coming in as someone who'd always been told he couldn't sing and he was maybe tone deaf. And the way he talks about, I have to send you to the case study, musicalmindcourse.com, to hear it in his own words. But the way he now talks about music and how he's experiencing music and singing and even playing, it's just so wonderful to hear. And yeah, it's one of the clearest cases where someone who thought they were absolutely unmusical feels absolutely musical now. I love it. And again, to come back to something we were talking about in session 1, we're not talking about overnight success and a magic bullet that suddenly makes you a proficient virtuoso. And I'm sure, as I talked about David there was part of him being like, oh, don't make it sound like I'm an amazing piano player. Because I think he's a lot like me and he has that kind of humility and concern about that kind of thing. But what we're talking about is the perspective shift and the empowering approach to music. That means that, like with his lollipops in the case of David, the whole experience of learning music is transformed. And so no, you're not the virtuoso overnight, but your journey to being that virtuoso is suddenly much faster and much more enjoyable. So if you missed session 1, I just wanted to clarify that, you know, we're not promising instrument technique comes in a heartbeat, but what we're talking about here is the most enjoyable and effective route to that stuff too. Just a couple more of these case studies, because hopefully I hope that my enthusiasm is coming across and it's contagious, but these examples I just find so inspiring and so motivating for myself and for the team, and I hope for you too, to see that musicians just like you, people who never necessarily thought they were a natural or had any internal ability, at the end of some kind of learning process, the light bulb's gone on, they've had the breakthrough, taking this kind of holistic approach has left them feeling like, yes, I am capable, I am competent, I am feeling the ease, feeling the joy, feeling the flow. I've got a new relationship with music. Little shout out as Stefan saying hi in the chat. Terrific, great to have you with us, Stefan. And we have the replay recordings for now anyways, that you can go back and check the other sessions if you like. Steve, piano player and teacher, great to have you with us, Steve. Oh, I love that comment. Steve says he's realized he needs to experience and model ease and joy if he's going to pass it on to his students. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Steve. I think I'm trying to not say the wrong thing here, but it's so inspiring to me when I see a music teacher who recognizes the value of this stuff and is willing to explore something new themselves for the sake of their students. It's tremendous, and I love having teachers in Musical U. We have lots of teachers as members and on the Foundations course because they've recognized that. And in fact, the next case study I want to share is a retired music teacher. Ian from the UK he said the course was surprisingly affirming. So he found it reminded him that this stuff is learnable for anyone. And I think it was from that perspective as a teacher that it reminded him to try and equip his students with these inner skills, not just the fingers on the instrument kind of technique. Just two more examples I will leave you with. I could go on, and I will say again, like, we've got lots of case studies and quotes on the Foundations page if you want more examples of what a transformation can look like. Whether or not you're interested in Foundations, just go and be inspired. Min F, and I believe Min is in China. I apologize if I'm getting that wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's China. She plays piano, and check this out, this was kind of heartbreaking to watch when she explained this, but she went to take piano lessons for the first time as an adult and was told she was too old to learn. And thankfully, she had the sense and the confidence, I guess, enough in herself that she did not take that as an answer. She did not take no for an answer. And she joined Musical U and she went through Foundations, and she said she now feels hope for a musical future. And I should mention for her, like, a big part of that was the community aspect. And if you go back in our podcast episodes, we've talked about this a lot, so I won't go on a whole tangent about the importance of surrounding yourself with the right kind of peers and the support of musicians who are like-minded on this kind of stuff. But just to say, for Min, like, that was a transformational thing for her to feel like she was part of a community that believed she could learn this stuff. So I'm going to rein myself in because I have lots more here, but I do want to respect everyone's time and not make the mistake I did in the first session of talking forever. So shout out to Ruth, who's saying hi and looking forward to signing up for Foundations. Terrific, Ruth. Great to have you with us. And I want to move on because I hope you're as inspired. Like, even just reading through those again, I've heard all of those before. I've spoken to some of these people in person, but their stories are so inspiring. And just when you see so many examples of so many different kinds of musicians playing different instruments at different ability levels, coming from different perspectives with all kinds of different baggage or accumulated misconceptions or self-doubt or background or bad experiences, when you see so many people like that tell their story of, and then I was able to feel like a real musician, it's the best thing in the world. And like I said before, it's what we love most on the Musical U team. So I wanted to try and share a bit of that with you today, whether you are totally new to this and doubting this kind of transformation is possible at all, or you're a Musical U member and you believe it's possible and you see other people in Musical U doing it, but you've begun to lose confidence it's possible for you. Or maybe you're partway through or graduated from Foundations and you just feel the need for a fresh boost of, yes, we can do this thing. So that's the first thing I wanted to do today. And I said the second thing was to try and take all the risk away, because I know that particularly for that first group who are new to all this and you're beginning to believe it's possible full stop, but you still feel like it would take a leap of faith for you to do this, you've probably got some uncertainty, you've probably got some doubt. And as I planned out what I was going to cover in these sessions, I was asking myself, like, what is the most I could do to make sure this works for people? What can I do to maximize the chances of everyone who watches, everyone who joins, everyone who comments, going away and actually having more ease and joy in their musical life and getting this kind of amazing transformation that we've been talking about? And I heard my own voice. Like, I heard the voice of me at, I don't know what age it would be, like early 20s, saying all kinds of skeptical things, to be honest, and basically doubting, would it be possible? Would it be a big risk? Would it be something I regretted. And it takes a bit of a leap of faith. I talked about this yesterday, how doing something outside the status quo, it takes a bit of courage. I nearly said it's very easy. It's not easy, but it comes more easily to just do what everyone else is doing, and that in the world of music education unfortunately means neglecting a lot of these skills, focusing on just instrument technique, getting very bored, very frustrated, and having, frankly, a really hard experience of trying to learn music, the thing that should bring us such joy. That is unfortunately the status quo, and it takes a bit of courage to look away from that, believe something else is possible, and move yourself in that direction. And so that skeptic voice in my head was trying to protect me from that. It was trying to say, no, just stay with what you know. Just stay with what everyone else is doing. You may not get the amazing results, you may not get a transformation, but at least you'll make some good progress. That was the voice I was hearing when I imagined what some of you guys might be thinking right now. And in particular, there was a voice saying, this sounds too good to be true. Like, it sounds lovely, but I don't really believe it. And so the other thing I wanted to say is, I know, like, we've had a couple of comments already. There are people from the Foundation's waitlist coming along to the session this week who are eagerly awaiting us opening the doors tomorrow. And I know that for you guys, there's also like a financial thing. If this is the route you're considering to pursue that transformation, it's not a tiny price on the course. We've tried to make it as affordable as possible, and a lot of the comments we have are about how incredible the value is. So I'm comfortable with that, but I know that it's a barrier, right? Like, it's more of that self-doubt in your head saying that that's a bargain if it pays off. Like, if I get that transformation, that is not a lot of money to pay for it. But if I don't, that's quite a lot of money to have wasted. So the second thing I wanted to try and do today is address all of that, like all of that risk. And when I talk about risk, there's this expression they use in marketing that you may have come across, which is called risk reversal. And the idea is, if you are a shop, for example, you're conscious that the consumer might be hesitating to buy because it feels risky. They might be wasting their money. And the traditional way to do that, the traditional way to try and reverse that risk and remove that risk for them is with a guarantee. So excuse me while I drink some coffee and I will explain a little bit more. Shout out to our podcast editor, Ryan, bless him, who said he couldn't help himself removing some of the long pauses and coffee breaks during the first session. So if you're a podcast listener, you were excused from that, and maybe this too. But shout out to Ryan, who plays technical deathcore in a band and does a fantastic job on the audio podcast. While I'm taking a moment, I will say hi to Nancy Kay, member of Musical U. Great to have you with us again for this session. Nancy, thank you for coming along. And Steve, who teaches in Chicago, saying hi to Timothy as a fellow local teacher. Risk reversal and guarantees, in the context of buying something, and I don't want to talk just about financials here, because I appreciate some of the risk is the effort. It's the, what if I look silly, or what if I regret this, or what if I spend my practice time for the next 3 weeks on this ease and joy direction and it doesn't pay off. So please, when I talk about risk and that I give the financial examples, bear in mind I'm also talking about the risk of wasted effort, or the risk of looking silly, or the risk of, I don't know, being a bit embarrassed to admit you tried this thing and it didn't work. Shops tend to just provide a guarantee. It's a money-back guarantee. If you buy this thing and it breaks, or if it's not what you wanted, you've got 30 days to return it. Something like that. And that's what you should be looking for, that concept of risk reversal. If you're hesitating, you want to look for something that can remove that risk for you. So I don't really recommend keeping your music practice a secret, but to give one very clear, simple example is, if you're super worried that someone will think you're silly for having tried ease and joy in your music learning, just don't tell anyone. Make it your own private project. Remove that risk by, it's not a reversal in that case, it's just addressing the fact that you're worried about that and finding a way to do it that removes that risk for you. Now, if you are inspired today and you want to go off and do this holistic ease and joy kind of musicality training, and you want to do it completely separate from Musical U, no problem, wonderful, you have my blessing. I'm not here to try and convince you otherwise, and there are other ways to do it for sure. That's absolutely fine. I'm afraid there's only so much I can do right here, right now to help you with that risk reversal thing. But I will point you to a couple of episodes of our podcast, and Adam, if you wouldn't mind, you can pop the links in. We have 2 episodes, one about how to choose an online music course and one about how to succeed with an online music course. And so if you're going to go out and find a way to do this, please check out those episodes, and they'll help you mitigate some of that risk so that you can be a bit more confident that it will pay off, that the thing you're embarking on is going to deliver the transformation you're looking for. So if you want to go off and do your own thing, no problem. That is, I think, the most useful thing I can do for you right now is point you to those episodes. If you do want to go forwards with Musical You, and clearly a bunch of you here are already either committed to Foundations, or you're a member, or you're a Foundations graduate even, and there are maybe some of you who are here live or watching the replay because you're considering Foundations when it opens up, I wanted to talk specifically about something brand new, which really was the outcome of asking myself that question of what is the most we could do to help de-risk this for people, to help make sure if they're willing to take a little leap of faith, it pays off and they don't regret it, they don't feel that anything was wasted, they have no reason to look back. And it came down to this risk reversal thing. It was like, could I come up with something that would make it a no-brainer, that would totally feel like there was no risk involved? And I'll say again, don't tune out if you are not considering Foundations. Don't tune out if you are a member. Don't tune out if you're a Foundations grad. I think this applies to anyone who's willing to let Musical You help them in some way. And it comes back to this idea of risk reversal and guarantee. And at Musical You, we've always tried to kind of go above and beyond the standard guarantees. So I mentioned like a shop might give you a 30-day guarantee. And a lot of membership sites online, they'll give you like a trial period, or they'll give you a 30-day coverage. And so in your first 30 days, if the membership site's no good, or if the online course is no good, you can get your money back. And I always wanted us to do a bit better, because that always felt a bit risky to me too, because what if, you don't use it that much at first? Or what if it takes 30 days for you to figure out if it's right? Or, in the case of a membership site, what if you get 6 months in and you realize you haven't been using it for 3 months? And I decided we'd do something a bit more bullish and really just try and put you guys first. So our standard guarantee at Musical You has always been what we call our total confidence guarantee, which means if you're on a monthly plan, you can always get a refund on your latest payment. So it's a kind of a rolling coverage. Your last month, you're never going to be like, oh, I nearly said something rude. You're never going to be like, oh, darn, I forgot to cancel my membership. I wasted a month's worth of money. And with the annual plan, we even pro-rata it. So the idea of an annual plan is you're committing to a year, but even if you do that and you get 6 months in and you're like, actually, it's not working out, you can get half the money back for the period you didn't use, which is like the most generous guarantee I was able to come up with, even though it was like a bit nutty from a business financial perspective. And so that's where I was starting from. And I was like, what if that's still not enough for people? Like if you're considering Foundations, or if you're a Foundations grad considering part 2, or if you've been working on Foundations, but you're here because it hasn't quite landed that transformation for you, what could I do that would actually just like change the game in favor of you guys? And I asked myself, what if we actually guaranteed your results? So this transformation I'm talking about, and I'm here talking about how it's possible for you, and I'm trying to inspire you that it's possible for you. What if we straight up guaranteed we will deliver that kind of experience for you, and you will feel like, yes, I have fundamentally changed my relationship with music? And that was like a light bulb for me, because I was like, oh yeah, we could do that. Like, we know the course works, and our team is devoted to your success, so why not make it a bit more formal? And I need to be a bit careful, because I'm sure lawyers would yell at me, and I think I'm okay to just kind of act in good faith and trust everyone is coming from the right direction on this. But the thing is, like, Foundations works great for the majority of people who take it, but it's not perfect. Like, if you've ever tuned into our material, we're very upfront about saying no one online music course is ever perfect, and particularly in this area of musicality training. And so for the handful of students who don't get amazing results on Foundations, it's not because the course wasn't good or because they didn't have what it takes. What we've seen is it's because they weren't willing to ask for help. And that's understandable. Like, maybe they're used to working with companies that don't offer any help, or they've had kind of that half-hearted effort to try and help them out with an online course, and then the emails just kind of trail off. And so I understand, like, people's expectations are not very high, but really we fundamentally believe, and I'm willing to stand by the fact that we know this transformation is possible for each and every one of you, and that's what we're going to stand by with this new guarantee policy. So I've said a couple of times that I'm not here to pitch foundations, and we expect it to sell out whether I say something right here and now or not. But I realized, actually, I would really like to fill it up with people who are excited and eager and engaged, the people who've been watching this training, who are inspired by these transformational stories and are willing to let us help them. Like, if the course is not working out perfectly, if they're not getting something, they're willing to reach out and let us step in and help them. I want to fill the course with that kind of people. So I wanted to see what we could do to kind of tip the balance in that favor. And we can't guarantee that you will do your part. Like, you might just not look at the course material, and we can't, obviously, we can't provide much of a transformation if you never log in. But in that situation, you're covered by our normal guarantee anyway. So, you know, if there's fundamentally something broken, or you never get involved, or something comes up in your life, like, we're always going to have your back with a satisfaction guarantee. But I wanted to go beyond that. And again, like, I'm not a lawyer. We don't have an in-house lawyer. We're not that kind of company. So I trust that you'll understand the spirit of this. And our new guarantee is, if you show up and do your part, what if we said we would do everything we can to get you the results? Like, if you're having trouble singing in tune, we'll help you. If you can't seem to clap in time and you're a bit embarrassed about that, we'll help you. If you're at all stuck or confused on anything in the Foundations course, we'll help you. And that means answering your questions in the course discussions. If any of the Foundations members are here with us today, they can confirm, like, those discussions are like wildfire. They're just everyone pitching in, offering perspectives, offering help, members helping each other, the team there every day answering questions. If that personal support in the discussion boards doesn't solve it for you, we're going to be doing live weekly Q&A calls again for this new Foundations intake. And I wasn't planning to do this because we have a Q&A call recording for every module, and that mostly answers the common questions. But again, I wanted to be like, how can we maximize the odds of someone having this transformation? And how can we make sure the whole cohort of 200 that are starting on Monday experience that result? And I was like, we should do live Q&A calls again. No brainer. So we're going to do that. And then I was like, what if that still doesn't crack it? Like, what if someone comes to the Q&A call, they're having trouble singing in tune, we talk about it a bit, and they go away and they're like, oh, I still don't really get it. We are going to be up for jumping on a one-to-one call with you. Like, if that's what it takes, we will jump on a Skype call with you and coach you through it and help you pass that sticking point. We will go to that length to ensure you get the results you signed up for. And, like, naturally, again, a bit of common sense, with 200 people taking the course and a small team, we're not saying we're going to be doing one-to-one lessons with each and every person all day, every day. But the point is, if you're willing to show up and do your part, and with Foundations, we're talking like, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes a day, 6 days a week. It's not a huge burden in terms of time spent. But if you're willing to show up and do your part and let us know how it's going and ask if you need help, we're going to do whatever it takes to get you there. And I'm excited saying that. Like, I'm a bit nervous because from a business perspective, that is a nutty thing to do. And I do genuinely worry that a lawyer is going to yell at me and tell me you can't do that, or it's a massive liability, or of course we're opening ourselves up to people taking advantage and being wrong-headed about it. But it's the right thing to do because we know this course works and we want to get you this transformation. So this goes for any past Foundation students. If you bought the course in the past and you haven't yet felt like you got that transformation, we're here for you. If you are about to sign up and join on Monday, join whenever, but start on Monday, the new cohort, we are there for you. This guarantee covers you. And actually, if you're a graduate and you're about to do part 2, we're covering that too. So we are really standing by what we say is possible and the faith we have in your ability to get there. And I think that's a pretty incredible offer. Like, I feel good about that. And it's one you're not going to find many places. Like, that's what makes me nervous, is not many people do this, or not any people do this. If you look at online courses, how many people say we'll guarantee your results? How many people say we'll jump on a call with you and make sure you understand it? I don't think anyone, right? And that makes me a bit nervous because maybe I'm making a really big mistake here, but it seems like the right thing to do. And so we're going to do this, and we're here for you. We're here to serve you. And like I said, I want anyone watching this right now, hearing me talk about this, you're the people I want in Foundations, and whether that means you're coming to it new on Monday, or you're coming back to it mid-course, or you're about to start part 2, if you're tuned into this message of ease and joy, and this has hit home with you, I want to be there for you every step of the way in any way we can, and that's what we're standing by with this new guarantee. So let me try and summarize what we've talked about this week, and wrap things up, and let you go about your days. Oh, I do have one other big important thing to share, actually. But let me summarize. We've talked about ease and joy being possible, and how it's actually the fastest route to success. And if you remember, like, the science on flow kind of proves that. The assumption that you need to be straining and working hard to get results is nonsense. Ease and joy is possible. It's the fastest route to musical success. And the heart of it, the most effective way, is this holistic approach that says, I'm not trying to bolt on musical skills to an unmusical person. I am musical, and I need to allow myself to let out that inner musician. We also talked about the psychological barrier that might be holding you back from that and making you doubt that it's possible for you, and how we need to put aside that misconception, the misbelief, and have a little bit of faith in ourselves to take that leap of faith and give yourself a chance to try this. And today we talked about some inspiring case studies to hopefully paint a picture for you that this is happening every day for people inside Musical U, people just like you who play all kinds of instruments. And sorry, I said in Musical U, it's happening outside Musical U too, to be clear. Like, I'm not pretending we are the only solution out there, and I hope no one's getting that impression. But we see it every day in Musical U is what I mean, and it's so inspiring, and it's so inspiring to us on the team, it's inspiring between members and other members, and I hope it's been inspiring for you today to hear some of those case studies and those transformations, and you can find more at musicalmindcourse.com. And I also shared what I think is the most I can do to make it risk-free for you. If you want to take the plunge, or if you want to double down and try Foundations again because you bought it before, or you want to double down and take part 2, I want to make it as easy as possible for you to put aside that voice of self-doubt and just say, yes, I'm going to do this. And that's with this new guarantee that says we will do whatever it takes, within the bounds of physical possibility to get you the results. We're here for you. We're committed to your transformation. So I will wrap up just with a couple of words, because we've had some comments, I've had some emails. I know that while some people tuned out in session 1 because they're allergic to the possibility of marketing and they hate the idea of being asked to ever pay anything, those people have tuned out. I think we've lost them at this point, so I can be a bit more relaxed. But I know there are a lot of you who have come along because you're on the Foundations waitlist, or because you have been looking at Musical U for a while and considering taking the plunge. And so I want to say a couple of things about Foundations specifically, because it's opening up tomorrow. New cohort starting on Monday, covered by this guarantee with live weekly Q&A calls, all very exciting. But like I said, although we expect to fill up the 200 slots one way or another, I want to fill it up with you guys, the people who are really eager, really engaged, really willing to take advantage of the support we're offering. And we officially open the doors tomorrow. I'll keep this simple. If you want to know more about the course, you can find it at musicalmindcourse.com, and we'll be sending emails if you're on our email list to fill in a bit of the details. But if I want to tip the balance to you guys, I need to do something to make that happen. And I decided what we do is we just open a bit early. We did an early bird offer for members last week, but I'm going to let you guys in right now. If you're watching this live, you can get in now. We're opening officially tomorrow in the middle of the day US time, and that's when we'll be emailing like tens of thousands of people on our mailing list. We'll be putting up publicly on our website that gets like 150,000 people a month coming to it. That's when it will be front and center for everyone else. I want to talk to you guys and be like, just sneak in the back. Now, if you're keen, like, I'm not here to twist your arm, but I wanted to give you this opportunity to, selfishly, to tip the balance in favor of people like you in those 200 spots. So if you're a member of Musical U, you'll find a link in the sidebar of the members site now to purchase Foundations. Or if you are a Foundations grad, you'll find a little thing for buying part 2. And if you're not a member, Adam, if you wouldn't mind, can you please pop the link in the Facebook comments? And this is a link that it officially doesn't go live till tomorrow. You can click it right now and grab your spot. You get the discount. We've got a special discount going on. You get the bonuses. You're covered by this amazing new guarantee. And this is just a way for you to grab your spot before the general public gets access. So that's for you here live right now with me, and for anyone watching the replay in the next 24 hours, like the Keenies, before we open the doors publicly. That's just a little thank you from me to say thanks for joining me for this live training or watching the replay. And it's also, like I said, selfishly because you're the people I want most filling up those spots. So I think that's it from me. I'm glancing at the chat here. I've been trying to keep an eye and make sure I answer any questions that come up. And I can see there's been some great back and forth. And if you have any questions about what I've talked about in any of the 3 sessions, now is the chance. I'm here for you guys. If you want me to clarify anything, talk more about something, talk less about something, I don't think I can talk less in retrospect. Sounds like an Alice in Wonderland kind of an idea. But shout, please, in the comments. Now is the chance. And I'll just wrap up by saying a big thank you again. Thank you to everyone who's watched live. Thank you to everyone who's watched the replays. I can't believe we've had a couple of thousand people watch the replays in the last 48 hours. That's nuts. and I'm sure that, yeah, that will hopefully only continue to increase. So great to have you with me, and thank you for your participation in the comments. Thank you for the emails that have been coming in. And like I said at the beginning, it's really meant a lot to me to hear that this has been landing with you guys, because it's not easy stuff to talk about compared with how to play a C major 7 chord, or, you know, why can't I tell major thirds from minor thirds. This is a lot harder for me to nail, and I don't know that I nailed it. Certainly the first session ran long, but hopefully it's been helpful, and the comments we've had have suggested it has been. I see loads of likes and loves streaming in now, and I really appreciate that from everyone. Thank you. I can see we have one person who is still really angry, maybe about the coffee machine, but if you're the person tapping the angry button, please let me know. Let me know why you're annoyed, and if you have a question or a concern, I would love to help you out. The vast majority, though, seem to be likes. Thank you, and I don't see any last minute questions, so I will wrap things up there. And if you do have any questions, email me. It's christopher@musical-u.com, or I'll try and keep an eye on the comments here on the replays as well. And I hope to see you guys in there on Monday. We're super excited here in the team to be kicking off a new cohort and to be doing the Part 2 course for the first time. We have Anne coming back teaching that. It's going to be phenomenal. And like I said at the beginning, I feel comfortable saying that because it's not on me. It's my company offering it, but it's Anne that makes it magic. So huge thank you to everyone, and I hope to see a lot of you in there on Monday. Cheers.